Hi everybody, welcome to day 4 of the ALM Summit, and particularly my session here today where we're looking at an example end-to-end process implementation of hire to retire. So before we start, as always, you're welcome to share your insights, thoughts, and anything else using our hashtag ALM Summit on all social media platforms. We look forward to seeing your thoughts. So the agenda here is really, a nice one for today. We're trying to look at the Cloud ALM and how it's used in a line of business solution implementation. So we're trying to take all the capabilities we've looked at over the last few days and sessions and bring them into one implementation project where we hope to show you how SAP Activate is consumed, the different roles and responsibilities within Cloud ALM, some of the current capabilities available in Cloud ALM. And I want to make reference to some of the ones that might be available in the near future. And I guess we don't have time to cover a full implementation, so this is going to be about highlighting some of the key capabilities we do have currently. So without any further delay, we can actually start moving into our implementation. So a sample of what our implementation is today is we're going to use a general company, global company Ltd. It's going to be a new implementation of a hire to retire scenario, and of course the objective there is they want to focus on an employee's life cycle in the company. So our implementation methodology is going to be SAP Activate, and of course our tool is going to be SAP Cloud ALM, which you're all here to see. So how this starts? Well, obviously, like all projects, we're going to start in the discover phase. And really, this is about value discovery and learning how SAP solutions can support business areas in the project, including our implementation too. So within Cloud ALM, there isn't actually a whole lot within this discover phase, but what we can do prior is take some time to look at the public demo tenant. And when you're happy and you've got a hands-on feel with Cloud ALM, you can request your own Cloud ALM tenant in the One Support Launchpad. So really the primary roles here would be the administrator in the requesting of that tenant and the project manager in his use. So how do we go about requesting the tenant? Well, it's really simple, and I know it's been mentioned already, but it's definitely worth saying again. You log into the One Support Launchpad, you find your SAP Cloud ALM tile, like so, click in, request, fill in some details like the subdomain, and it should be available within 15 minutes, but we've also heard as early as 10 minutes. Again, prior to this, if you want to get a hands-on feel with actually Cloud ALM, you can avail of the public tenant we do have available, which I'll just show you here. So on the support SAP page for Cloud ALM, we have our full public tenant available for you to use now. Easy tenant access here. We have a load of roles already set up for implementation specific, operation specific, and of course a cross capability one for both implementation and operation. I'd also heavily recommend to make use of our media center and all the content available in there. It really does give you a hands-on feel for Cloud ALM. But now to where our project's actually going to start, particularly with Cloud ALM. So in a prepare phase of the project, of course, our project will be planned and prepared for, and the project roadmap is going to be defined, and it's going to provide us with some high-level project goals. But more towards exactly what's in Cloud ALM, we have the setting up of this project, the onboarding of the project team. We're going to sign our project landscape and, of course, define our business process scope. So again, we can't look at every role given our time today, but what I am going to focus on is the administrator, the business process expert, and the project manager, and how each of these engage with SAP Cloud ALM in the prepare phase. So what we want to do is we want to initiate that initial project setup, and we do this by focusing on the scenario to be implemented, hire to retire in this case. We're going to define some project milestones and, of course, assign the team. And all of this is made a whole lot easier in Cloud ALM by preloaded tasks. We also have simplified user management, which means users can be added to some fixed roles and all their authorizations are predefined. Subscribed S4HANA tenants can be easily assigned and unassigned in SAP Cloud ALM. And of course, our project scope, as you might have seen some of the other presentations, is quite simple as well. So what we actually want to do now is go in and do this in Cloud ALM. So what we're going to come into now is a clean Cloud ALM tenant, has never been used before. And the basis here is that our administrator has just requested Cloud ALM, just got it, and he's given access to our project manager. So the project manager is going to come in here in the role of a project lead and see for the first time Cloud ALM, and we're going to set up our project. So if we go to our overview screen, this is it. It's empty. There's nothing done. So we're probably not used to seeing a screen like this, but 0% project, there's nothing in place, and our project lead now wants to get the ball rolling on the project. Come into our task, and we see we've 4 initial tasks involved in the first phase of the project so far. Of course, our project lead is only concerned what's assigned to his particular role, so he's going to filter and sees there's 2 tasks in this prepare phase for his role. Now, our project lead, in this case, Paul, has decided he's the only project lead. He's going to assign both these to him. So we can do so as simple as this. And now it's time to actually set up the project. So we navigate into our tasks, we read all our task descriptions, what the exact procedure is. And what we can do is we can jump straight to where this task has to be executed from here by just using this little blue icon up here. And here we are, our project setup. Simple as this, we edit. We want to add a project name. We put in something quite basic, global company implementation project, and we want to choose our task template. Now, we know this is a hire to retire, but we can still look at what information is provided, open our drop down and choose from the list. So we can choose the task template S/4HANA Cloud or hire to retire. Again, this is a hire to retire implementation, so we're going to choose this. The task template can actually be changed at any time. But in doing so, you're going to remove all the other tasks and all the work you had associated with them. We want to set some live project milestones. You get the idea here. It's very simple, 8th of October, and we can save. And so what we have now is the first task complete. We've set up that project. We followed the procedure. So this task is done. Our project lead is happy, and we can close the task, but now we see we've 244 tasks in our task list as opposed to the 4 we had prior to doing the project setup. And this is because our task template has been imported. So had we chosen S4 Cloud task template, those tasks would have been imported, but these are our hire to retire ones. So again, our project lead only wants to see the ones assigned to him. He knows he's the only project lead on this project, so he's going to mass assign all of these tasks to himself. And the reason for doing this is just makes his overview page a bit clearer, specifically what tasks are assigned to him, the status, and so anybody else in the project knows who they to contact in regards to the task. Our next task will be assigning the team members to the project. Now we can say, our lead has already gone in, read this task, he understands what's involved, so we can jump straight to where the task has to be executed from here. We're back to our project setup, but this time we're in the team tab, and what we want to do is add our team members. Now, as mentioned, predefined roles with authorizations already here, and these are consumed from SAP Activate, so we just have to edit, and it's time to add some users. So we want to add Betty, who's going to be our business process expert in this case, and all we have to do is type in their email, and they're going to get the email invite. Similarly, we want to add a configuration expert, so let's add our demo user, Carl. He's a consultant, not a play on me, I promise you that. But we can save, and we can see that these 2 team members are now going to be invited to join the project. Navigate back, and of course, this task is now complete, and we're going to mark it as done. And a similar approach will be taken for all of Paul Project's tasks within this prepare phase. If we jump back to the overview, we can immediately see the change. Whole lot more tasks. We start getting a project overall status going. Task status is also on the right. So our overview screen is slowly growing. Now, because we've added 2 new members to the project, our administrator is now aware that we have new people and that they will require access to Cloud ALM. So he's going to navigate down to his user management tile. This is his responsibility, and see, yes, we do actually have 2 new requests. Because these users have been invited to join the project, but they haven't actually been given user access to the tenant, we have to accept them. So Carl and Betty, welcome to the project. And we can see that this circle here has changed on the left. So we now have 4 users with project management rights and 2 with user and access management. So if we want to expand on this, we can click in here to the users tile, and we see, yes, we have Betty and Carl as new members. The reason why they don't have their name on top, similar to the cards for Paul Project, is because they haven't actually come in and logged in yet. Now, when this tenant would have been initially requested and our administrator would have gone in for the first time, what he would have done is he would have given Paul Project access. And, he wouldn't have added them through the project, similar we did to Carl and Betty, because the project wasn't even set up. But what he does is he comes in here and he presses add user, and we can actually add a user now just to show you how this is done. So let's add Tim, give him access. Tim is going to serve as a tester later on in our project. We then choose what sort of authorizations we want to give him. So We have implementation specific authorizations, we have operations ones, but we just want to give him regular team member authorizations. He can edit all the tasks of the project, but he can't change our project milestones, task template, any of that. He's just a project member. Similarly, if we wanted to give this user the ability to come in here and view the user management tile, we can also take the cross topic section. Again, he's just a project member. This isn't necessary. Save, we're quite happy that Tim now has access, and we come back to this user administrator's overview. And so he sees a slightly different screen here than the project lead. These my role tasks are specific to him, and he wants to go in and see what sort of tasks are available for the administrator role. Filters by administrator and sees, yeah, there's 44 for this role, but in this particular case, he's only going to assign just the one to himself. And the reason why his name is automatically available here to assign is because in that project setup, when we're adding our team users, super administrator has been added in the system administrator role. If we had 10 people added into that role, there would be 10 names here available to pick. Otherwise, we can just select other user and search for him. So we navigate in. He's happy, he wants to come in and carry out this task. He wants to sign the project landscape. He's going to read the description and look at the prerequisites. So we jump in here and our landscape management has already been set up. Subscribe tenants are available, so we can just simply click and add the available tenant. Now, rather than manually add these, I'm just going to automatically jump and have these assigned, and we can navigate back. Now, there was a prerequisite there, and that was to do with the landscape management tile. So when the administrator might have come in first, one of the first things he might have done also was set up the landscape management. And without going into too much detail here, I'll just show you how this would have been done. So he would have come in here to the cloud services. He would have added a cloud service. And again, this is all general information, but this is all available on the setup and the admin guide. So it's available here on the SAP Help portal. You can follow this step by step. It'll tell you exactly what to do, what's general, what's customer specific. So we take this information and fill out this cloud service. Now, I'm not going to do it. We've already done, but we would click save here. We would then click into the cloud service itself, and we would add the endpoints. Once we do that, we can then just import our subscribed SAP services. Project administrator is happy. He's assigned our project landscapes, and now it's up to our business process expert in the prepare phase to scope our business processes. So this is something that we have seen before in terms of adding the actual scope, but we're still going to navigate in here. It's still an important task. Navigate in, and we want to assign this, of course, to our Betty business process expert that we've just added to the project. Again, we jump to where the task has to be executed, and it's in here in the business processes. So we want to add our scope. Now, for this project, we're just going to use one scope, very simple, and we can call it global scope, and save. And immediately, all the best practice processes, intelligent enterprise suite scenarios, reference content is all available here now for that scope. Had we added a second scope, I'll just say scope, we'll save. They're also imported for that scope. So you can filter them by scope and just scope the processes that are relevant to you in this particular project. But again, we're just going to go with the one for this project. We'll delete a scope. Now, if we do delete a scope and we had work done on that, all associated data related to that scope, like requirements, tasks, will be deleted. So I would not recommend deleting a scope by accident. In this particular instance, we're going to just search for workforce administration. Navigate in, and this is what it looks like. So we've seen this before. We don't need to dial down at the moment on this, but we are happy. We want to add this to scope, and we can press done. So we scope one process here. Again, to speed things up in the interest of time, I'm going to automatically assign the other scopes, and this is how our business process scope in the prepare phase currently looks. So our business process expert, happy that that's complete, is going to mark this task as done. Close the task, and now we see that we have some more new tasks. And what's happened here is because we've created that scope, the schedule fit to standard, conduct fit to standard, and approve requirements tasks have been automatically generated as a result of that scope. Had we created two scopes, we'd have double the amount of tasks available now. But they've got nothing to do with this initial prepare phase. To make sure we don't go into any tasks, we don't need to do right now. We can add a prepare phase filter. Only show this phase, no tasks remaining. add a second phase, explore, we can see there's 4. And similarly, we can add columns to our task list. So again, this is just some general kind of navigation, and it's quite useful to know. So in here as well, we can also download this task list to Excel, and I guess add as many columns and comments as you want. So we don't have time to cover every task within the prepare phase, but that's kind of a first look at what we would do. Our project lead, of course, will continue assigning tasks to the project members, and we continue through completing the prepare phase tasks, ending with our customer sign off of the phase complete. We then move to our explore phase, and really the objective here is to understand how processes provided by SAP can satisfy your business requirements, and how this is achieved in SAP Cloud ALM is we conduct our fit to standard activities. We have the tasks there to support that. We can collect requirements, we can create actionable tasks from those requirements, and what I'm going to show particularly in this phase is how that business process expert again works here. We're going to introduce our consultant to this, and of course our project lead. Now, breaking down this phase a bit further, we do have the process content viewer available. You saw when we created the scope, the best practices were imported, but SAP Cloud ALM really does support customers in that fit to standard workshop. Without going through a full fit to standard, we obviously don't have time. I will show you how we would create the requirement notes and so on. And when we do create those requirements, we can then generate actionable tasks from them. So we have notes, we have requirements in Cloud ALM. So let's have a look at how this might actually go within our explore phase. And back into our system, and we can say, in the background, all the other tasks were complete for prepare phase. So we're coming in now. The project manager is just kicking off our explore phase, and this is what we see. Again, we have a screen here with a bit more color than before. If we look at our requirements and business processes per scope, we can see the 5 processes we've scoped to the project. Our project status is overall increasing. Because again, the project lead assigned all his tasks to him, we can see my task 39 and the task for his role is the same figure. But for now, we want to jump in just to his open tasks. And the first thing we see in this task list is 10 tasks here for the explore phase, but we notice an icon. What is this icon? Well, this is a predecessor task. And what the predecessor task does is it basically highlights what should be carried out before you carry out the following tasks. So within this, we have, relations. You can see what was a predecessor, obtain customer sign-off. Yes, we did that, and we need to complete this before we update our project management documents. Now, a task like direct and manage project execution, we can't just mark this as done instantly. It's something we're going to keep working on throughout and update its status. So we can say, we're starting this now, we give it 25% in progress. And because our filter for this task list is only on open, this task is now not visible. Similar situation for the following 3 tasks. So what we can do is we can mass update all their statuses as well and say, yes, these are all in progress at the moment, 25% complete. So moving on to a task like chart of accounts, mandatory before we even go near fit to standard workshop. It's crucial that we carry this out. And because these are consumed from the SAP Activate roadmap, what we do have available is, a huge description of what exactly needs to be done, the apps that need to be used. You can jump to the app from here, but we also provide accelerators. So the accelerators are available here. So you have files there, you have web pages, and of course, again, we can see what the deliverable is, and our successor task will be the organizational structure. So we're not actually going to jump into that chart of accounts. We're sticking with what's in our Cloud ALM application at the moment, but we can mark this as done. We can say that this is being carried out, and on completion of this, we're happy to progress through the project. Our consultant then, aware that a chart of accounts is being complete, comes in and looks at his available tasks. Now, there's 52 available tasks for this consultant, obviously quite a lot to get through, and he is the configuration expert, but he's only concerned with the ones, again, in our explore phase. If we do want to go more specific, we can add a deliverable filter, and in this scenario, he's only interested in the fit to standard analysis tasks. So we can choose that and see that the 4 here are all required for in fit to standard analysis, and again, essential before we do conduct that fit to standard workshop. Now, these tasks great. Again, descriptions, accelerators, provided everything you need to know to actually complete the task, but it's not a task that we physically do in Cloud ALM. So we can mark all these as, again, mass complete. We're happy the configuration expert has carried these out. And, we're ready now to go into our fit to standard workshop. So he's notified our business process expert, and she can schedule the fit to standard workshop. So she's going to use her tasks and open it up. Yes, so I have scheduled the fit to standard workshop. We're ready to go, and it's time to conduct. We come in here, of course, the procedure again is listed. We can mark this as in progress. And when we jump here, we're going to jump back to our scope processes. And this is where we carry out a fit to standard workshop. Again, we don't have time to carry out a full fit to standard, but what we can do is take one here, for example, workforce recruitment and onboarding, and just use this as an example going through the project. So we clicked on the workforce recruitment and onboarding, and we can see straight away here it's brought us in to our intelligent enterprise scenario, and it's highlighted the one we clicked on. So if we then choose request position, for instance, we have a more detailed description, and we can expand on this by clicking the plus, come right in here to the collaboration diagram, and if this is where we want to conduct any of our activities, we can do so. So if we want to create a requirement, say on this particular step, we can use our shortcut here, create requirement. I'm going to give it a name. Again, we pick something simple for the sake of time, external ID and requisition, and we want to choose a work stream. Now, all the work streams here are predefined. We can choose whichever one we want, and they'll be filtered by that later. Regarding the follow-up, so we have two options here. We can choose not planned, and what this means is that we can fill out this full requirement. It's one we captured with great detail, and we're quite happy, and we do want this, but not immediately. But for the sake of this demonstration, we do want to create a task from this. This is something we want, and we'll fill in the description. Now it can be as detailed or as short as you like. Just paste something in there. Field required to link external ID, and to complement this, you can add as much as you want. Bullet points, images, anything that you feel is relevant to this particular requirement. So now we've created a requirement. We can see it's listed there in that particular step. But again, we've picked up another piece of valuable information in this workshop, and we want to actually store that somewhere of value and have a fixed place. So we're going to create a note. And what these notes are is, again, for capturing anything that you feel is relevant. So we can put something in here like just a manual confirmation email they currently send, and our note is stored. And the idea here is that, when working through these, and, it has been mentioned previously, we want to create requirements, create notes, and conduct that fit to standard workshop. And the idea is we go through all of these. If you want to take, this particular one offline, we can download it in a PDF, SVG. So there is, a lot of features there available. So for the rest of our scope, we go through each of these, create a load of requirements, notes, whatever comes up in our workshops. And what that will result in is a completed fit to standard workshop. Now, again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to create all these here, but we can say they're created in the background. And on completion of this fit to standard workshop, our business process expert wants to just let people know, yes, this workshop is completed. It's time to review those requirements and complete them. So she's going to create a comment there. She can close her task, and she can see that the comment is actually stored on that task. So it's a way of collaboration. If we had 2 or 3 business process experts, if we had multiple people engaged in a particular task, they can comment back and forth. You can look at the history of the task. So it's a form of collaboration using the comments. So now that our fit to standard workshop has been completed, our configuration expert has been notified, and they're going to come in and review and complete our requirements. Again, we can see as we are progressing through the tasks of this project, our tiles here are getting more populated. If we look at the bottom left, we have requirements and business processes per scope. So we had only 5 business processes scope, but we can see the requirement scope for each of the work streams now. Beside that, we can see how many of our requirements have tasks, how many are not planned, and how many notes we have. And similarly, it's starting to populate. Our project's starting to come to life a bit more. So our configuration expert, happy that the prerequisite is complete, that the fit to standard workshop is done, can come in and review the requirements. So they're going to jump here straight to where these requirements are stored, and that's in the requirements and notes overview. So from those fit to standard activities, we had 21 requirements and notes completed. In this particular instance, our configuration experts is only interested in the ones for our scope. He's only interested in particular requirements, And again, he only wants to see the ones that are planned for now that have tasks. So he's filtered as such. And for our particular example, where we chose where we created the external ID to requisition, you can filter down again to find that. So we're going to open this requirement now. Again, this is just being required with some minor detail from the fit to standard workshop. So our configuration expert could come in, use their expertise, and provide all additional information required for this requirement to be completed. So just going to throw in some general data here that could be relevant. And again, you can use images, you can add as much information as you want, whatever it takes to finish this requirement. So the configuration expert's happy. He would have gone through all those tasks and added that information, and gone back to his in progress task and said, this is actually complete now. He'd notified Betty, I've all the requirements have been completed, and it's time for you now to approve them. So Betty comes back into her tasks. She sees the approval task, navigates in, jumps to the requirements and notes overview, and again adds similar filters that our configuration expert had. We're going to take our same example again with external ID and requisition, and what we can see is that Betty has these checkboxes which the configuration expert didn't have. And again, that's down to the predefined roles and the authorizations they have. So Betty is able to generate tasks from requirements because she's a business process expert. Configuration expert can't. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're happy with this task. We want to approve it, and we're going to generate a task from it. So we highlight it, generate tasks, and we're about to do this, but we have to remember, is there anything else that needs to be changed in this requirement? Because once we generate a task, you can't edit the requirement, go to read only. But no, we're happy, we're going to generate it, and we can see we have a little task icon here now, meaning a task has been generated from this. If we open that task, or if we open the requirement, we can see that the task is linked here. Similarly, we can jump to the requirement, and there is quite a bit of interconnectivity between them. Betty comes back to her requirements, and now she just wants to mass approve them all. So she's reviewed them all. She's happy with what the configuration expert has done. She wants to just see the ones we're creating tasks from and highlight them all and mass approve. We've 8 here. We've already generated tasks from 1, but that's not actually going to affect this mass approval. It recognizes that we have 1 task already generated. This is important. The relationship between tasks and requirements is one-to-one. So we can't generate 1 task from multiple requirements, nor can we generate multiple tasks from 1 requirement. For now, it's one-to-one. So we have 8 tasks now created from those 8 requirements. If she was to come in here and try to, or accidentally even, try generate a task from a requirement we have is not planned, she can't do so. You can see the generate tasks icon is not highlighted. It's not an option. So it protects us in that way. You can, however, manually create requirements from here. You can add them to a scope, but the advantage of creating them, in our process diagrams is actually being able to create it at that level. So here it's just generally a requirement created for the scope, not specific to an individual process. So, again, within that explore phase, there is quite a lot to cover. Within the fit to standard workshop, we'd obviously review the best practices flow. Business processes and concepts can be demonstrated in your starter system. We don't have time to go through all that, but the important thing is that we're coming out of it with genuine requirements, and from those requirements we're generating actionable note or actionable task. Our realize phase, we then the purpose here is really to incrementally build and test an integrated business and system environment, and all of this will be based on the requirements that we identified in the previous phase and captured. So the 8 requirements that we had, we will now build and test them, and that's why we generated the tasks. So within this phase, I'm really going to more focus on the actual test preparation and execution. So the roles we're going to have is just the consultant, the project manager, and the testing expert. Now, test management itself within SAP Cloud ALM currently covers manual testing, but for any of you who've attended some of the testing sessions, you'll be aware that automated testing is on its way. Test preparation itself is going to be based on the scope processes, which I'll show you, and its readiness can be defined by the process flow. And manual test execution, which we now have available, again, based on ready to be tested, and it's only available if your test cases are prepared. Before we actually jump into the testing itself, I want to just show you, how we would do all those configuration tasks. Again, in Cloud ALM at the moment with the configuration expert, we don't have the agile support at the moment, so we're not creating backlogs, we're not adding tasks to those backlogs, but this is going to be available very shortly, which will be a lot more vital in this realize phase. So the configuration expert again only wants to see the tasks assigned to this particular scope, and these are the 8 requirements. This is where these tasks have ended up that we generated. They're in here for the configuration expert. Now he will go and build these. He could change the assignee. Again, they can collaborate on these tasks through comments. And for now, that's what's available. And we're just in this case going to say, these have been created, they've been built, and the configuration expert is happy with them. So he's going to save, mark them as done, and that's all of our requirements from the realize phase. Still has a lot of tasks remaining, and with every project, there is differences. So some tasks might not be relevant to a particular project, and what we can do is actually mark those tasks as not relevant. So just taking one example here, configure customer specific fiscal year variant. The customer in this case is actually just going to use the pre-delivered fiscal year variance. Our consultant is putting that comment, and he's just going to mark this as not relevant. Now, again, this is just an example I'm taking, but you can mark tasks as not relevant, as opposed to just marking them as done, and they will be again removed from your task list depending on your filters. In this particular case, our consultant is only focused with a specific deliverable. His expertise, for instance, might lie within the test system and employee central. So he's just going to filter by them. Again, he could change all these tasks to whoever he wanted, but we do see the predecessor tasks appearing here. So again, with predecessor tasks, it's important you note that they're not prerequisites. It's not like we can't complete this task without the predecessor being done, but obviously it's heavily recommended, and it's there for a reason. So in this particular instance, our configuration expert would have set all these up in the background, and we're quite happy to mark these as done. We can remove the deliverables, have a look back at what our task list looks like, and there's still 31 tasks remaining now. Interest of time, we're not going to manually go through all of these tasks. So, while this is being done, we can jump into our testing expert who's coming in here now. Remember, we added him as Tim. He would have then been added to the project, and he can navigate in and see his upcoming tasks. So again, a lot of color. We're slowly working through the project here. We're in the realize phase, and our tester comes in here, and his first task here is to define the test cases. So the way we do this into our task, we can jump directly to where this has to be done, and we're into our test readiness overview. So all of our process flows from our scoping are available here. We can filter right down again to the example that we were using. I believe we were position to job posting where we created it. And here we go. We can open the process flow, and this is where we create our test cases. You can create as many test cases as you like, but when we do go to create a test case, we can see that there's also some activities also available here based on the process flow. So you just need only scope which ones you feel are relevant to your particular test case. Again, this is completely up to you, but you can add manually another activity, another test activity, as many as you want, but you can't delete any of the ones that were here in the first place. So because we added one, we can delete it. You can't delete the ones that were available in the first place. We're going to save, and it jumps straight to where our content is. So again, our structure was 3 activities, so our content has 3 activities here. What we're going to do is add the first test step. Real simple, log on. We can manually enter all this, text, or what we can do is we can actually paste in information. So, be it from an SAP supplement or a document you have, you can paste in, you can keep the formatting. Expected results, I know within testing, a lot of it often has screenshots. You can also put in images. So it facilitates you there. We manually add the test steps. So we're just going to add a second one here. Again, automatically fill this out. And between these, we can choose where we want to add the next step. So before, after. So simple steps like that. This is how a filled out test case might look. Again, you're free to rename the test case, and there is kind of that simple editing in here available. But we're happy with how this test case looks. We want to save it, and we're now content that this test case is prepared. It's good to go. For this particular instance, we're going to have one test case. So we can see it's prepared. We navigate back to our process flow, and we can mark, yes, this is test readiness, this is good to go. Somebody can come in and read this test case. Again, interest of time, in the background, we're going to create a few more test cases and have them available. But for now, the testing expert can come in, mark this is 50% done, say, hey, I've actually created some of the initial test cases. So these are the ones we can currently use now. Let's go and they're ready for testing. How we would actually execute those test cases, we'd navigate into the test execution tile. And again, this is quite new. And we can go into our process flow that we created the test case in. Again, the other ones we created in the background. Come in, here it is. We can jump back to where we edit the test case, add an extra step, so on. But for now, let's just execute. So when we press execute, we navigate in here to the actually steps that we created. So simple as, did it pass? Did it not pass? It might have passed with reservations. Anytime we choose a status other than pass, we will be prompted to enter a comment, which is mandatory. And you have to enter the comment. So we put in something like, it worked on the second time, but the first time, the hover over wasn't there. Similarly, we're going to mark these as they're passed. We're happy. And for this, we might want to just put in a comment anyway, which we can do. You can click on the test activity, navigate in, and add your comment. Unfortunately, at our final step, it failed. There was an application issue, and we're going to put in the reason. We weren't able to click the yes button for some reason, and we want to save. So this is our test run at the moment, and this is how it looks. The status overall was failed, and we're going to close the test run. So this is now finished. So yes, we got through 100% of the test case, but in the end, it didn't work for us and it failed. Had we run through all our test cases, we might have something that looks like this, where some test cases have been complete, 100% progress. Others where we have multiple test cases is only at 66%. The reason why this is because we have 2 that were actually complete, work no problem, 1 that didn't. Again, you come in here and you would look at why it failed, look at the comments, make the adjustments required, and come back in and run that test again. How our overview screen would look with all this new test information is like so. We can check out the readiness by processes. We had 7. How many test cases were prepared? How many are still in preparation? In the bottom left, we can of course see the test execution itself. How many failed? How many passed? We don't want failed test cases, so those changes have been made. We're quite happy, and we want something that looks a bit more like this, with test executions being complete. We have passed all of our test cases. So that's a bit of an insight into how the realize phase would work. Again, within Cloud ALM at the moment, once we get that agile support, it comes in. The parallel projects support that as well. We will have a lot more there. For now, you're just carrying out some of those tasks, working through them, and using the accelerators, and any of the descriptions that are in those tasks to help you in their completion. It's a similar story for the deploy phase. So, we're executing those cutover tasks. It's all about that end user training and obtaining customer sign off. So rather than actually jump into Cloud ALM 10 again and just manually jump through those tasks, what we can do is instead, look at, well, what's coming up for SAP Cloud ALM? What do we have that's going to come and help and make our implementation that bit easier? And if we jump to the roadmap, we can see exactly that. So, I showed you the capabilities that we have, and how you can work through tasks and how the different capabilities interact. And for now, we can look at what's coming up. So as mentioned, Agile project support is going to be a big boost to Cloud ALM, and especially in that realize phase. We're going to be able to create sprint schedules. You can create user stories and backlog items, and with those tasks that we created from our requirements, you can add them to the backlog, and as such into sprints. Of course, Nicholas has mentioned in his piece that test automation is on its way. Integration with the test automation tool as S/4HANA Cloud is going to be there, and of course monitoring all those execution results. We're going to have some simple change management, some simple process editing, and parallel projects is also available. So at the start, when we set up a project, you'll be able to have multiple projects, and the roles within those, you'll have multiple people. And similarly to how we filter the scope throughout the task list, you'll be able to filter as project. We also have some great new stuff coming next year. Those of you that are familiar with Solution Manager and like your documentation, that's on its way, and similarly extensions at the end of 2021. So really, because I'm conscious that I am up on time, what we did look at is, how, you work through Cloud ALM implementation, from the start and the prepare right through to, the realize and the build and the test. Some of the different roles and responsibilities within there, we obviously can't go through them all, but the ones that we could, and of course the capabilities. Now, if any of you do want to know more about implementation or, the Fit Standard Workshop specifically, I would encourage you to check out Tanya's Open SAP course. So this course is actually really good. It's a nice introduction to Cloud ALM, and use this in conjunction with the public tenant, and you'll really upskill yourself. And it's the start of what's to come. There is plans for more learning content next year on top of what there is there available. So for now, I'd just like to thank you all for your time. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you saw how we were going to work through a project right through from the setup. So thanks very much. Thanks for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed the ALM Summit so far.